The security guard didn't make eye contact. He reached for his walkie but didn't press the button. From behind the front desk, a voice called out, steady, rehearsed. "Excuse me, ma'am. Can I help you?" She turned slightly, water dripping from her coat sleeves. "I'm waiting for someone to open the door," she said. Calm, dry. The man behind the counter, white, mid-40s, navy blazer, tapped something on his tablet. Didn't look up. "This entrance is for registered guests only." "I see," she said. Silence thickened. The guard looked down. The receptionist busied himself with fake typing. Then came the manager. Same blazer, softer voice, but sharper eyes. "We've had problems before, just trying to avoid another incident." That line hung in the air. She studied him, the way he said problems, like a code, like it meant more. "I don't remember causing any," she replied. "Not you specifically," he said quickly. "But situations like this, confusion, tension." She didn't blink. "I didn't realize existing here counted as tension." The manager exhaled through his nose, folded his hands. "Look, we're just following protocol." Behind her, the rain softened. Inside, no one moved. "I understand," she said, "and I think you're right to be careful." He looked almost relieved, until she added, "You never know who someone might be." The manager opened his mouth, then stopped. She turned her eyes to the logo above the front desk. "I paid for those letters," she said quietly. His smile faltered, but still, he didn't step aside. She turned around. No rush, no anger, just a final glance, and then, the door opened, but not for her. A different man arrived minutes later. Gray suit, polished smile, quick steps, meant to look urgent, concerned. "Ma'am," he said, holding the door open finally. "We're so sorry for the misunderstanding." She didn't step inside. He waited, shifting on his feet. "It's been chaotic tonight, short-staffed. They didn't recognize you. They didn't ask," she replied. A pause. His mouth opened, then closed. "They should have, but to be fair, we train them to follow protocol." Her eyes didn't move from his face. "Protocol that skips identification but assumes threat." "Look," he exhaled, "it was just a mistake." She stepped in slowly, past the threshold, not because he held the door, because she decided to. Inside, everything looked polished. Marble floors, dim lighting, the scent of vanilla, hospitality, but the silence from the front desk. Staff was louder than anything. Not one looked up, not one said a word. "You trained them well," she said quietly. The man flinched. "You should have seen how fast they moved when they thought I didn't belong here." His voice dipped. There was no ill intent. She turned. "Is that the standard now? As long as you didn't mean it, it doesn't count." "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." Silence stretched again, heavy and unspoken. "Speak with them," he said finally. She looked toward the cameras in the corner. "I won't need you to." His brows furrowed. "What does that mean?" Her reply was slow, steady. "It means I've seen enough. And they've said everything they needed to by saying nothing." Then she walked past him, her heels quiet against the lobby floor. Behind her, no apology followed, only retreat. She moved with calm, past the front desk, past the whispers, past the eyes that finally lifted, but only to follow her. She didn't look back. Instead, she sat, center of the lobby, crossed one leg over the other, her phone on the table, her silence louder than their footsteps. A junior manager approached, clipboard in hand, sweat above his brow. He hesitated, then spoke. "Is there someone we can call for you?" Her eyes met his. "You mean someone white?" He blinked. "No, I didn't. I meant corporate ownership." She tapped her screen once. The hotel logo glowed. "I am ownership." He froze. "Ma'am, I didn't realize you weren't meant to." "That's the culture here, isn't it?" She didn't wait for an answer. Down the hall, someone whispered, "She's the CEO." Another voice followed. "Of this place." "Yes, that place." A tremor moved through the staff. Not chaos, not yet. Just fear softening the corners of their certainty. The front desk manager stepped out from behind the counter. His voice cracked. "There's no need to escalate this." She didn't rise. "I'm not escalating anything," she said softly. "I'm just sitting in my chair, in my hotel, watching how you treat people." No one meant offense. "You think intent is the measure?" she asked. "Because I measure by impact." No one spoke. She looked up again. Her tone stayed calm, quiet. "Tell everyone to stay. Staff, supervisors. No one leaves. Why?" She smiled the same smile. "Because the meeting starts in 15 minutes. He backed away slowly. One whisper reached her ear. "She's not here to talk." Correct, she was there to end the conversation. With action. He stood by the security desk, eyes darting from her to the others. "Do we call someone? HR?" the receptionist asked. "No." The manager whispered. Legal. She heard them. She always had. The tone was always the same. Like she was a risk. Like she was unpredictable. Like black composure was some kind of fuse. Across the glass, her phone lit up. Her face didn't. Asterisk, she's just sitting there. One of the supervisors said, voice low, almost panicked. She hasn't said a word. That's what's scary. Another replied. The security guard stepped forward, then stopped. Do we remove her from her own hotel? A younger clerk asked, eyes wide. A hush fell. She doesn't belong here, the front desk manager muttered. Too quiet for her to hear, or so he thought. She did. Asterisk, her voice cut through the glass. Calm. I built this lobby, she said, and I can hear everything. They froze. The receptionist's hand dropped from the phone. Ma'am, someone said, maybe we should get your assistant. I don't need assistance, she replied. I need accountability. The manager tried to mask his panic. Let's not make this personal. But it is, she said. It always was. You just thought it was safe to assume I wasn't watching. Someone stepped back, quietly. The security guard looked at the floor. She stood. I won't yell. I won't threaten. I don't need to. They stared. The problem, she said, her voice low but certain, was never noise. It was silence. Yours. Then she walked toward the glass. No one stopped her this time. No one could. Not anymore. Asterisk, he opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Just a dry inhale, like he forgot how words worked. She stepped fully into the lobby now. The gold trim along the floor caught the light behind her, not ahead. The kind of symbolism no one needed to explain. Ma'am. The manager stuttered. Maybe if we could just. You're right, she said, smooth and sharp. This won't be hard at all. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, just looked at him like a record she'd heard too many times. I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding. He tried again. There wasn't. A silence thickened. He adjusted his tie. We were just following protocol. Which one? She asked. The one that skips names and checks for color. No reply. Phones vibrated. Pockets buzzed. The staff glanced at one another. Sir, whispered the receptionist. I think you should step back. The manager turned toward her, confused. I mean it, she said, eyes on the woman who now stood in front of the front desk. You should step back. From all of this. He didn't. Okay, the woman said, not smiling this time. Then I'll help you. She reached into her coat. Not for anger. Not for chaos, just her phone. She typed. Once legal will be here in 10 minutes. Someone exhaled too loudly. Asterisk, tell the rest of your team, she said, to check their emails. You're firing us. The manager whispered, suddenly aware of how small his voice was. She tilted her head. You fired yourselves. I'm just processing it. And with that, she walked past the desk, not looking back, not raising her voice. She had said what she came to say, and the silence that followed said everything else. The glass doors hissed open behind her, but not for her. A tall man in a navy suit stepped in, phone pressed to his ear, eyes skimming over her like she was invisible. She didn't flinch. Inside, the lobby had gone quiet. Not respectful quiet. Heavy quiet. The kind that sinks into your chest and stays there. The manager was still by the desk, staring at the screen. No typing, no movement. Just his fingers twitching near the keyboard, like maybe the right words would come if he waited long enough. Asterisk, she's the CEO. The receptionist, finally, whispered. Yeah, someone else muttered. Of the whole damn chain. Oh my God. She asked for your name. You said we've had problems before. She was wearing flats, the security guard said, still watching the revolving door spin. Didn't even look angry. She smiled. No one smiles like that unless they already know how it ends. The manager rubbed his temple. I didn't know, he said, mostly to himself. I didn't know who she was. You didn't ask. Asterisk. He didn't argue, just nodded, slowly, like a man remembering every moment in reverse. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. They were already unraveling that stillness. It wasn't peace. It was the moment before paperwork drops. Before someone in a suit walks in and says, let's talk privately. Before badge access changes and emails get shut off without warning. A receptionist looked down. Her screen had frozen. I think my login just... Mine too. From outside, she paused at the curb. Her driver opened the door. She stepped in without a word. Behind her, the hotel still looked polished, still gleamed, but the shine didn't mean safety anymore. It meant exposure. And the clock had just started ticking. ChatGPT said. The leather chairs were too stiff, too polished. The kind made to remind you whose name was on the plaque, and whose WASN single quotes T. She had sat at that long boardroom table alone, 10 years ago, hands folded in her lap, application packet sealed, business plan in perfect order. A man across the table, grey suit, thick gold watch, laughed before she even finished the second page. You're opening a luxury hotel, he asked, voice syrupy. In that part of town, she nodded. Yes, with your background. My background built the numbers you're holding. He didn't respond, just chuckled again, passed the folder to the next guy. Where's your partner? Someone else asked. You. Came alone. I built it alone. Ambitious, the third one said. Not impressed, not hopeful, just amused. They told her they'd think about it, that they'd call, that they were concerned about risks. And still, 6 weeks later, every one of those men cashed in when the investors signed on. They took their fees, sent her congratulatory emails, patted her back at the ribbon cutting like they hadn't rolled their eyes a month before. Now she sat in a different kind of silence, not one of proving herself, but remembering how little had changed. Different city, same posture, the manager standing in front of her. He had that same look, not hatred, not fear, just disbelief, that as if power couldn't possibly sit in someone with her skin. She watched him now, on the screen in her car, pacing near the front desk like it might save him. He was mouthing something to the receptionist, too late, too frantic. Her phone buzzed. A message from legal. All terminations reviewed and cleared. Would you like to release the official memo? She paused, then typed back one word, yes, and exhaled, not out of anger, but release. They had laughed when she asked for a loan, but they built their careers on the foundation she laid. Now they'd lose them on it, too. You're really hands-on for an owner, they used to say, chuckling like it was a compliment, and she'd smile, because that's what black women in power were trained to do. Smile, nod, and move the hell on. She remembered the boardroom oval table, bottled water, subtle dismissals. Didn't expect you to be so articulate, one man had said, barely looking up from his laptop. Do you come from hospitality? Another asked, or some other kind of service. He had smiled through that, too. No one had said the word black, but it was always there, in the way they watched her too closely when she entered, then looked through her when she spoke. I like her, the older one had said once. She's got grit, like she was a construction project they could admire from a distance. She held that smile then tight, professional, and buried their words somewhere deep behind her spine. Now, her finger hovered over the next email. The memo was already drafted, 6 names at the top, all tied to the hotel, 3 of them from that same boardroom. All of them had something to say when she first pitched her vision. All of them had grinned when they assumed she'd sell it off within 5 years. None of them thought she'd stay long enough to own the room. They used to laugh in. She pressed send. The system began logging them out before the memo even finished, loading on their screens. One of them, Brian, called her cell. She let it ring. The voicemail buzzed. Angela, listen, if this is about earlier today, let's just talk it through. I think there's been a misunderstanding. You're blowing it out of delete. She closed her eyes for a beat, not out of pettiness, out of memory, of every smirk, every just joking, every backhanded compliment dressed as respect. They thought she forgot. She didn't. They thought silence meant weakness. It did in single quotes, too. And now they'd sit in their own quiet, wondering how it all fell apart without a raised voice or a slammed door. Just one woman, just one decision. That's all it ever took. Her phone had been silent for a year, until that night. Angela tapped the voicemail. Still saved, still unread. Candace's voice came through, soft and splintered. Ma'am, I really did. Nothing more. No explanation, no anger. Just the sound of someone carrying too much for too long. Angela sat with it now. In the same suite Candace used to deliver flowers to, always with a quiet smile. Always, ma'am, never out of fear, just respect. She hit play again. I tried, ma'am. The message had come a week after the board joked about hiring more color at the front desk. Just to balance things out. She remembered Candace stiffening at that meeting, shoulders locked, lips tight. No one asked her anything after. Angela didn't either. She regretted that now. Downstairs, voices buzzed from the staff lounge, nervous, scattered. Word was spreading. Something had changed. Angela stepped in. The room fell still. One manager, pale and trying not to look it, finally spoke. So, are we going to talk about the firings? Angela glanced at him. No, we're going to talk about the ones who stayed too long. Someone shifted uncomfortably in their seat. Candace, she said, not as a name but a weight. She quit last year, quietly, no questions asked. Why do you think that is? No one answered. No one answered. Angela stepped forward, gaze steady. She told the truth with her silence, and you all let it stay quiet. I didn't know. One whispered, "You didn't ask." Angela replied. A beat passed. Then she added, more softly, "She called me, said she tried." That was her goodbye. A pause. Then she left the room, not waiting for understanding. Just making space for their shame to arrive. Angela didn't speak when she walked into the office that morning. She didn't need to. The folder in her hand spoke loud enough. It hit the table with a soft thud, sliding open a printed thread of emails. Logos in the header, signatures at the bottom. Legal counsel copied. A soft gasp escaped from the corner, where Thomas, head of operations, stood frozen. "Let me explain." Angela raised a hand. "Don't," he swallowed. "It was a joke. A bad one. Your joke had 10 replies," she said. None of them said stop. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Angela picked up one of the pages and read quietly, her voice flat. "She's got the earrings on again. Must be board meeting day." Someone behind Thomas coughed. No one laughed. She dropped the page back down. Another voice spoke up. "Karen, HR. We didn't think you'd ever see it." Angela looked at her. "I was never supposed to." Karen didn't answer. Angela leaned against the edge of the table, arms crossed. "You thought I was decoration. A photo for the brochure. Someone to shake hands and keep quiet." Thomas stepped forward, his voice low. "It wasn't personal." Angela stared at him. "I know." A pause. "That's what makes it worse." "That's what makes it worse." The silence was thick now. "You used my name," she added. "Built your paychecks under my title. And still I was a punchline." Karen fidgeted with her ring. "Angela." "Ms. Holloway," she corrected. The room stilled. Angela stood upright, slid the folder back toward her bag. "Legal's already moving. I just wanted you to read it on paper like I did. No threats, no yelling, just a final glance. I built this, and I will not be erased from it." Then she walked out, slowly leaving nothing unsaid. The hallway to HR felt longer than usual. Angela walked it slowly, each step echoing with memory. Files stacked neatly in the conference room, her name on them. Others too. Candace, Devante, Denise, pages filled with polite language for impolite behavior. Angela sat across from Marlene, the HR director who kept smoothing her skirt like it'd change anything. "I didn't know it was this bad." Marlene offered. Angela looked at the folder. "You stamped insufficient evidence on half of these." "I followed policy." Angela raised an eyebrow. "Policy that silences patterns." Marlene shifted. "It's complicated. People have different communication styles, different expectations." Angela opened one file. "Candace asked not to be scheduled for night shifts alone," she said. "It made her feel unsafe. That's not." She found a noose in the supply room. Marlena froze. Angela didn't blink. "She left after that." "You logged her exit as personal reasons." A silence grew between them. Thick, dense. "I tried," Marlene said weakly. "No. You waited." Marlene's voice cracked. "I didn't know who to protect." Angela's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then you weren't protecting anyone." The door creaked open. A younger HR rep peeked in, eyes wide. "We're ready whenever you are, Miss Holloway." Angela nodded. "Close the door, please." The rep paused, glanced at Marlene, then gently shut the door. Angela slid the files closer. "These aren't complaints anymore. They're evidence. We're not reviewing policy. We're rewriting it." Marlene didn't respond. "I'm not here for apologies," Angela added. "I'm here to make sure no one ever sits in that chair again wondering if speaking up is worth it." The clock ticked. Marlene finally whispered, "I was scared." Angela stood, calm, measured. "Then you'll understand why I don't need your defense. Just your silence." Her heels echoed down the marble floor, familiar steps, but this time the sound made people flinch. She wasn't rushing, she wasn't scanning the clipboard, she was simply walking, and people moved. A barista glanced up, then quickly looked away. The front desk manager stared too long at the floor. 2 bellhops whispered by the elevators. Suddenly too busy to greet. Angela kept walking. Beside her, June, her assistant, walked with quiet rhythm. No clipboard, no schedule, just presence. No one spoke, until someone did. "Morning, Ms. Holloway," muttered Davis from accounting, not looking up from his phone. Angela stopped. June stopped with her. Angela turned. "That the same phone you used to forward those emails?" Davis froze, then tried to laugh. "Come on, I didn't write them. You participated. I didn't mean harm. It was jokes. Group stuff." Angela's voice didn't rise. "People hide behind groups, especially cowards." Silence. Davis blinked, tried to recover. I didn't think you'd ever see it." Angela stared at him. "I know." She kept walking. Every hallway felt smaller now, not because of her presence, but they're shrinking. Shame folds people. Inward, someone near the kitchen door whispered, "She's not playing." Angela paused again. June whispered, "You don't have to answer that." Angela's voice came low, steady. "It's not about playing, it's about remembering who taught you." Silence. They reached the executive suite. No one followed. Angela turned to June. "You stayed." June looked down, then back up. "They only saw your title. I saw your fight." Angela exhaled slowly. For the first time that day, the door clicked shut behind them, and the lobby stayed quiet. "I was just following policy," said Brent, arms folded, voice flat like it rehearsed itself overnight. Angela didn't blink. He shifted. "You know how check-ins work, ID, reservation, confirmation. It's not personal, it never is, right?" Her tone didn't rise, just held. Brent hesitated. "It was busy. The lobby was packed. I didn't recognize you." She nodded. "Slow. Yet you recognized every other guest before me." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. From the corner of the room, June sat with a notepad she hadn't touched. No one asked her to write anything. She just wanted the moment documented. "It wasn't a mean." Brent tried again, softer. "This time, look, we were under pressure. There's protocols, legal risk. It wasn't meant to." Angela leaned forward. "Do you know what you meant when you looked me in the face and asked if I was lost?" Brent stared at the floor. "You think it's policy," she said, slower now, "but policy doesn't make you smirk. Policy doesn't make you call security before asking my name." "I didn't." "You did." A breath caught in his throat. Looked at him, not through him. Quiet, clear, and tired. "The only thing worse than cruelty," she said, "is cruelty dressed up as rules." He shifted again. "I didn't think it would come to this. It already came. You just didn't notice." From the back of the room, someone cleared their throat. No one else spoke. Angela stood. "Following policy is a neat way of saying you did what you thought you could get away with." Brent looked up. Finally. She didn't meet his gaze. She didn't have to. She walked out and left the silence behind her. "Ma'am," the assistant said softly, holding her phone just a little tighter than usual. "IT's standing by. That need one confirmation." Angela didn't look up. She was still standing at the window in the executive suite, her suite now. Down below, the valet rolled luggage with the same stiffness they used to roll their eyes. She gave a small nod. "Do it. No drama. No noise. Just the quiet kind of decision people only feel once it's too late." Across the building, systems blinked, the reservation app froze, the automated emails stopped, guests wandered to the front desk, confused. Staff tried rebooting tablets, restarting routers. Nothing helped. In the break room, a shift manager stared at the frozen booking dashboard. "Did we miss a memo?" Another chimed in. "My paycheck portal isn't loading." The group chat buzzed. "Rachel, my access card just stopped working." Devon, "Y'all, is this part of a drill, Sam? What's happening?" No one replied, because no one knew except her. Angela sat down now, quietly. She picked up a plain white envelope from the table, held it for a second. The weight wasn't in the paper. It was in what it ended. She handed it to her assistant. "This goes to legal. Overnight delivery." A pause and the rest. Angela looked up. Her voice didn't tremble, but it landed with weight. "They'll find out the same way they watched it happen." No warning. Just absence. No speech. Just the lights slowly dimming behind systems, no longer listening to them. Asterisk. No grand finale, just a building going still, one locked door at a time. And when the questions came, she would still say nothing. Because silence, now, spoke louder than anything left. The lobby was quiet. Not empty. Just quiet. The kind of silence that knew something had changed but didn't dare say it out loud. Angela stepped forward. Slowly, same black heels, same black coat, same black woman, different air. A man at the desk glanced up, one of the night shift managers. He stood, straightened his tie, didn't speak. She kept walking, the same spot where she'd been stopped, right in front of the check-in counter. Days ago they asked for ID. Now she held the master key in her palm. No words, no resistance. "Ma'am," he began. Angela turned her head slightly, not fully, just enough. He stopped. Lowered his eyes. Her assistant waited near the elevator. Still silent. Still loyal. Angela didn't move toward the elevator. She stood still. In the same damn place they once pretended she didn't belong. Behind her, footsteps echoed. Another employee peeked around the corner. "Housekeeping." She froze. Angela looked. At her, really looked. The woman shifted nervously, then offered a soft, broken whisper. "I'm sorry." Angela didn't reply. She didn't need to. Some apologies are just too late to hold. Her gaze returned to the front doors. She stepped toward them. One foot paused at the threshold, and then she said it. "You didn't see me." The words dropped like stone in still water. A heartbeat. She turned her face slightly, letting her breath settle. Now, you never will again. No one moved. Not even her assistant. Angela walked through the doors, alone, as always, but this time not as a woman waiting to be accepted. This time, she walked away as the one who could have stayed. And chose not to. The doors hissed closed behind her, quiet, final. The ballroom lights were too bright to clean. It smelled faintly of lemon polish and anxiety. Most of the staff stood in clusters. Some joked. A few checked their watches. One young woman whispered, maybe a surprise meeting. No one really knew. Then the doors opened. Angela stepped in, no microphone, no clipboard, no smile, just her, and a ring of silence that followed her like a shadow. Conversations died mid-word. Heads turned slowly. Eyes widened. Mouths closed. She stopped at the edge of the room, letting the silence settle. Why are we here? Someone finally asked, a voice from the back, soft, uncertain. Angela looked at him, didn't answer. She walked forward, calm, steady steps. Her heels tapped on the polished floor like a countdown no one wanted to finish hearing. Is this a briefing? One of the supervisors asked, his voice tight. Angela stopped walking. She looked at him, not with anger, with something quieter, sadder. You remember me now, she said. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Asterisk, a ripple of stillness passed over the room. Angela held up a thick white envelope. No logo, no name, just wait, they'll be handed out, she said, one by one. What is this? Someone asked. Angela didn't look at them. Her voice didn't rise. It's not a policy, she said. It's not protocol. It's not a misunderstanding. She turned slowly to the room. It's accountability. Some gasped. Others stared at the floor. No shouting, no scolding, just truth. Angela placed the envelope on a nearby table, then walked away from it, not rushing, not hesitating. They watched her go, realizing asterisk, they were no longer the ones in control, and she was no longer asking to be seen. The folder pressed lightly against her side as she walked, but the weight it carried filled the room before she spoke a word. Angela's heels clicked once, twice, then slowed as she reached the front of the ballroom. She didn't clear her throat, didn't scan the room. She simply stood. The room wasn't loud anymore. It wasn't even quiet. It was holding its breath. A phone clattered to the floor near the buffet table. No one moved to pick it up. Do you still think I needed to prove anything to you? She asked. Kata paused. Asterisk. No one answered. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The way truth does when everyone knows it's finally arrived. I didn't bring lawyers, or cameras, or security, just this. She raised the folder slightly, then tucked it back beneath her arm. I built this place with hands you didn't see, with nights you slept through, with sacrifice you'll never feel. Asterisk. Her eyes met the young man near the front, the same one who wouldn't meet her gaze that day in the lobby. He looked right through me. His throat twitched. He nodded, barely. Regret crawling up his spine like heat. Angela didn't blink. You followed rules written for comfort, not justice. Protocol isn't an excuse, it's a mirror. Look into it long enough. It shows you who you are. Another silence. Someone in the back whispered, damn. Angela didn't react. This isn't about me firing you, she said, softly. This is about you deciding who deserves to be here, and realizing it was never your call. A slow inhale. A pause. Then, simply you can keep the uniforms, you just don't wear the power anymore. And with that, she turned folder still under her arm and walked toward the exit. Nobody followed. Not yet. Angela stopped walking. Not because she was unsure, but because they were. The silence she left behind now faced them head-on. Raised. Your hand, she said quietly, if you knew who I was. It wasn't loud, it wasn't sharp, but it sliced. No one moved, not a single hand. She let it linger, not to embarrass them, to expose them. The assistant manager, Claire, the one who used to nod without seeing, looked down at her shoes. Angela tilted her head slightly. Not even you, Claire. Claire's lips parted, then closed again. She wanted to speak. Couldn't you? Checked my ID twice. A soft cough came from the far left. A young server, maybe 19, glanced up, regretful, but still no hand. Angela scanned them again, slowly, carefully. You all walked past me. Some of you laughed. A few whispered. One of you, she turned to a man near the ice bucket, asked me to wait outside. He didn't look away. He looked through her, as if still trying to place her. You knew my face, just not my worth. Someone shifted. A shoe squeaked, but no one raised their hand. Power doesn't always introduce itself, she said. It doesn't wear a badge, or demand attention. Sometimes, it waits, quietly. Her voice softened, and you didn't see it. Because you weren't looking for it here. Angela took one last scan. A quiet sigh escaped. I'm not angry, she whispered. I'm just done being invisible in rooms I built. She didn't ask again. She didn't need their hands. She already had their silence. Angela's pause was heavier now, not silent weighted. Raise your hand, she said again, her voice just above a whisper. If you treated me like I belonged. No movement. A receptionist, thin, young, hopeful, once let out a soft gasp and clapped a hand over her mouth, like something cracked. Angela's eyes didn't flinch. She wasn't cruel, she was clear. You smiled when you thought I was lost. Her eyes moved to the concierge, laughed when I sat too long in the lobby, asked if I was waiting for someone. The man shifted, didn't speak. A senior chef ducked behind a column, arms folded tight across his chest. He didn't need to be called out. He already was. I ate in your restaurant once, alone. No one came for 15 minutes. I timed it. No one challenged her. Angela turned slightly, folder still under her arm. One of you told me, bathrooms are for guests only. I nodded, said thank you. Then I went upstairs, to the penthouse. Someone let out a shaky breath. But I didn't belong, right? She stepped closer. Belonging isn't just about being allowed. It's about being welcomed, seen, respected. Still, no hands. No one here thought I was worth that. Not in heels, not in a suit, not with my skin. A bartender, older, eyes wet, looked up. His lips moved, but he didn't speak. Angela let the silence fill the room. Then, this isn't about punishing you. It's about remembering who you looked through another pause. Then she looked to the door, then back. You want to lift your hands now. Too late. You lowered your eyes when it counted. And just like that, her gaze moved past them, already done with their silence. HR Director Mark Sutton stepped forward, face pale beneath the glow of the ballroom lights. He adjusted his tie twice before speaking. There's been a misunderstanding, he began, forcing a smile, voice shaky. Angela didn't look at him right away. She didn't need to. The room already had. No, she said softly. There's been a culture. Her words landed with weight. Not volume, just certainty. Mark's mouth opened slightly, then shut. Double quotes, We've always tried to be inclusive here. We have programs, and trainings, and you have a script, she interrupted, not a conscience. Behind her, someone whispered, it's over. A few turned their heads, but no one dared look at her now, not directly. Angela's tone never shifted, still calm. Every person who walked past me that night, made a choice. Every one of you who watched me stand there without offering help wasn't confused. You were comfortable. Mark's jaw clenched. I wasn't on shift that night. You didn't have to be, she replied. You built the shift. The silence afterward was long, like the room itself had stopped breathing. A woman near the back, once smirking during morning huddles, now stared at the carpet. A man who once called her miss instead of ma'am adjusted his posture, now smaller somehow. Angela looked at them, eyes steady. When bias becomes practice, it becomes policy. And when policy becomes culture, someone always pays. She took one quiet step forward. But today, I'm not the one paying. Mark dropped his eyes. Angela didn't smile. She didn't need to. She had what they never expected her to own. The last word delivered in silence. And just like that, the air in the room shifted. Power had moved. Quietly, fully, irrevocably. You remember me now, don't you? Angela said quietly. The manager Tom didn't respond. His lips parted, then closed. His eyes darted toward the HR director, then the floor. His hands, they trembled, just enough for everyone to see. Angela didn't move. I was standing right there. You told me I was loitering. Tom started, then stopped. The word hung limp in the silence. She tilted her head slightly. You threatened to call the cops. Someone in the back cleared their throat. Another closed their laptop slowly, like trying not to make a sound. Tom took a step back, but there was nowhere to go. Not anymore. That night, Angela continued, I said my name. You looked me in the eye, and said it meant nothing. I thought I didn't know, Tom finally stammered, voice thin. You didn't want to know. Tom looked to his left, one of the executives. The man stepped away, quiet, deliberate, even took off his name badge. No one reached out to save him now. Angela's gaze didn't waver. You called security on a black woman in heels, with a reservation in her own hotel, and now you're shaking. Tom swallowed. It was protocol. No, she said softly. It was instinct. The room was still, but not empty. Shame filled it now, crawling up collars, stiffening backs. A few glanced down at their shoes. No one spoke. You thought I'd come in loud, she added. You were ready for that. His breathing was shallow now. But I didn't yell. I didn't argue. She leaned in slightly. I'm just remembering. Tom's hand fell to his side. He didn't bother defending himself anymore. Angela exhaled once, calm, the same way the door once closed behind her, only this time it was closing behind him. The rustle of paper broke. The silence. Angela reached into the folder, her face unreadable. She didn't look rushed, didn't blink fast or breathe heavy. She simply began to walk, steady, calm, across the carpeted floor. One step, one envelope. Asterisk. She placed the first in front of the front desk clerk. No eye contact, no accusation, just placement. Then the second, for the woman who once laughed at her accent behind the counter. Then the man who asked if she was lost when she walked in that night. Then the marketing executive who glanced away the moment she raised her voice. For the first time, years ago, they took the envelopes, but none of them opened them. No one moved, except to hold the thin weight of their consequence. Angela's voice didn't come, just the quiet tap of each envelope on wood. A rhythm, a reckoning. One manager leaned forward as if to whisper something, a plea maybe, but her hand was already on the next envelope. He swallowed the words back. At the last table. She paused, then slowly placed the final white envelope before Tom, still shaking. His fingers brushed it, but didn't pick it up. Angela stood a moment longer, then stepped back, returning the empty folder to her side. Somewhere behind her, someone whispered, "Is this legal?" Another answered, softer, "It's done." Asterisk inside each envelope, none of them knew yet, was a termination letter, a standard NDA, and a single quote printed, clean on the bottom. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Maya Angelou. Angela didn't wait for a reaction. She didn't look back, because she hadn't come to make a point. She came to deliver it. Asterisk. The doors hissed open behind her. Angela didn't look back. Her heels clicked softly on the polished floor, echoing across a lobby that once told her she didn't belong. Now it was silent to silent, the kind where guilt hangs in the air like fog. No one moved. Asterisk. She passed the front desk, the same one where she was asked for ID, the same spot where a junior staffer once called security. Not a single word followed her, not even a breath. Angela didn't need them to speak, she already knew. Asterisk. Behind her, the envelopes still sat unopened, faces still frozen. No apologies came, no explanations, just the sting of realizing they'd been seen fully. Finally. Her fingers brushed the brass handle as she pushed open the door. A soft breeze met her face. The early morning sun poured in, and beyond the glass cameras, a dozen reporters held their breath, pens ready, mics aimed, lenses blinking. But no one spoke yet. They were waiting for drama, waiting for her to explode, to cry, to collapse. She did none of it. Angela stepped fully into the light. Inside, someone, maybe Tom, took a small step forward, then stopped. Another looked toward the exit but didn't follow. The doors remained open, but no one wanted to leave first, because outside those doors was accountability. A headline, a mirror. Angela didn't slow, didn't flinch, just walked past the cameras like they weren't there, like this wasn't her reckoning. But there's back in the lobby. A quiet cough broke the tension, then silence again. Somewhere behind her, a voice whispered, "Is that it?" And someone else replied, "That's everything." ChatGPT said. The lobby hadn't changed. The marble floors still gleamed. The chandelier still hung like it had something to prove. The air still smelled like money, but it was quiet now. A different kind of quiet. Angela stepped through the door and let it close behind her. No one was there to greet her. No eyes narrowed. No receptionist calling for backup. Just space and silence. Her heels clicked across the lobby, each step sharp, certain. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. She belonged here. Always had. She reached the front desk, paused, rested her hand on the smooth surface, the same one she'd once leaned across while being questioned, challenged, doubted. Her name hadn't been enough then. Now, it was on every deed. She moved behind the counter, pulled out the chair. Sat. And just stayed. Her fingers rested gently on the wood, her back straight, her face unreadable. No one came. The phones didn't ring. She didn't check emails, didn't move papers. She didn't need to do anything right now, because sometimes taking up space is enough. The hum of the overhead lights pulsed quietly, like the building was holding its breath, the same way she once had, standing right there, hoping someone would believe her, would see her. But no one did. Not then. Now there was no one left to doubt. She looked toward the double doors, the same ones she'd been blocked from entering, and then back at the empty space around her. A lobby built to impress, stripped of its power, Angela didn't smile, didn't cry, just existed. Finally, fully, without permission. And for the first time, the silence didn't feel heavy, it felt like freedom. The screen lit up with a flood of messages, some long, most short, all too late. You showed them how it's done. Grace under fire, total class, wish I'd said something sooner. Angela scrolled slowly. Her thumb hovered over one that simply read, "We were rooting for you from the beginning." She blinked, her face didn't move. Neither did her breath. Another ping, then another. Praise had found its courage now. Now that the dust had settled and the headlines had crowned her with resilience. My daughter watched the clip, said she wants to be you someday. She stopped at a name she recognized. Marcus, the janitor. Quiet man. Always nodded, never talked. His message read, "I saw what they did. I left the same night. Couldn't be part of it. I'm sorry I didn't say anything then." Angela stared at it for a long time. Her jaw tightened just slightly. That was the only crack. The cursor blinked on the reply bar, then vanished. Then blinked again. She didn't type. Didn't need to. Another message came in. "This one, you made us proud," she whispered, mostly to herself. "Where were you when I was being humiliated in front of the elevator?" No answer, of course, just the glow of a screen offering applause without presence. She set the phone down on the desk, leaned back, because silence, when it matters, can't be undone by noise after. The lobby stayed quiet, just her and the echoes of people who remembered to care when it was safe. And for the first time in days, Angela let her shoulders fall, not in relief, in weariness. Not from what they'd done, from what they hadn't. The photo was still there, crooked on the far wall, between the gold elevator and the door to the back office. Opening day, her in the middle, beaming them, the board, the investors, the managers lined beside her like props, some smiling stiff, others barely at all. She paused, not long, just enough to look at her own face again, how full it once was, how unaware. Then she kept walking, past the staircase they once said wasn't for guests. She had laughed that day, played along. Back then, she thought it was just a joke. The front desk bell dinged softly. The delivery man didn't meet her eyes, just placed the bouquet down. Red roses, white orchids, clean, careful. The card wasn't signed, just 5 words. "We were wrong, I'm sorry." Angela stared at the handwriting, her fingers brushed the edge of the note, then let it fall back into the petals. Behind her, the building stood quiet, not empty now, just honest. No pretense, no smiling masks, no one watching her every move, waiting for a mistake. She whispered, barely above breath, "I know." Not bitter, not grateful. Just done. And then she walked past the front desk where she once stood pleading, past the wall where her name had been taken down and now quietly returned, past the room where she was told to wait, and wait, and wait. She didn't stop, because this time, she wasn't looking for a seat at their table. She'd built her own, and while they clung to the edges of silence, she had already stepped into something freer, not louder, not flashier, just hers, and that was enough.